Antonin Scalia, when he was a panelist at the American Enterprise Institute, May 23, 1979. He said, in part, the founders inserted this alternative method of obtaining constitutional amendments because they knew the Congress would be unwilling to give attention to many issues that people are concerned with, particularly those involving restrictions on the federal government's own power. The founders foresaw that they provided the convention as a remedy. If the only way to get that convention is to take this minimal risk, then it is a reasonable one. I have not proposed an open convention. By the way, neither have I. Nobody in his right mind would propose it in preference to a convention limited to those provisions he wants changed. He goes on, there comes a point at which one has to be willing to run the risk of an open convention to get the changes that are wanted. Essentially, what I've said is that there is some risk of an open convention, even with respect to the limited proposal of financial responsibility at the federal level. I think that risk is worth taking. It is not much of a risk. 3/4 of the states would have to ratify whatever came out of the convention. Therefore, I don't worry about it too much. He goes on, in any case, Scalia, I do not have any great fear of an open convention, since 3/4 of the states do have to ratify what comes out of it. The clucking that, and he points out a professor, and others do about it, is simply an intentional attempt to create panic and to make the whole idea sound unthinkable. It's not unthinkable at all. It's entirely thinkable. When I wrote the Liberty Amendments, I hadn't even known that Scalia said these things. He said, I do not have a lack of trust in the American people. I am the one here who is least terrified of a convention. We've come a long way. We've gotten over many problems, but the fact remains that a widespread and deep feeling of powerlessness in the country is apparent with respect to many issues, not just the budget issue. The people do not feel that their wishes are observed. They are heard, but they are not heeded, particularly at the federal level. It's almost 40 years ago. The Congress has come up with a lot of palliatives. The legislative veto, for example, which do not solve the problem at all. Later, he says, the process should be used for some significant issue that concerns the American people. But which issue is chosen is relatively unimportant. I would not want a convention for some silly purpose, of course, but I think there are many serious purposes around, many matters that profoundly concern the American people, and about which they do not now have a voice. I really want to see the process used responsibly on a serious issue, so that the shibboleth, the alarm about the end of the world, can be put to rest, and we can learn how to use the process responsibly in the future.
The Founding Fathers knew this might happen. Article 5 of the Constitution gives the states the power to stop a runaway federal government. A convention of states to amend the Constitution. It's the only solution as big as the problem. It's time to stand up, speak up, and show up. Join us at conventionofstates.com.